All right. I think that we should get started. I know a couple board members have yet to rejoin, but let's go ahead and get started. So this is the workshop on the proposed bid for renovations at the Reiche Community School as part of the Buildings for Our Future renovation bond. And Mr. Superintendent, do you want to kick this off?
Yeah, not a lot. Just we're going to get into the nitty gritty of this. This is a similar process to what we did last week with the Longfellow bids. So our Harriman team of Lisa Sowen and Mark Lee, along with staff, Mr. Stilfen and Mr. Sherwood, are going to lead us in helping you to understand what it is that we are proposing to do and taking any questions that you might have as we continue to move this project now at high speeds. So I don't know, Lisa or Mark, who's kicking it off, but I'll turn it.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how best to be able to share our screen, and it's a little tricky in that. We logged in with a invitation passed on from Steve, so I don't know if...
No, Mark, so you should be fine.
Okay, let's try that. There we go, great, thank you. All right. Very good, well, good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be able to join you folks again. It's been a week since we had our workshop on the Longfellow School. So tonight we're here to present the workshop on the Reiche School as we prepare to go out to bid on this project. And so we have an overview of some important parts of the project to review with you as we prepare for this. And so these steps that we're going to be sharing with you are an current status of the floor plan. So that's the plan that organizes all the different room configurations that are taking place. We'll share with you renderings. Part of the piece with the floor plans and the renderings is also the scope. And so there is a detailed listing of the different scopes. We'll summarize them. There are, I think, about 20 different slides in the deck that identify what the renovation, the detailed renovation is in the various areas, but we'll summarize that for you. Both in the floor plans and then also we'll hit on the first few slides to give you a sense of exactly what it is that we're replacing and upgrading in the school itself. The next thing we'll review is the project update. Similar to how we presented at the Longfellow workshop, we'll give you an update on where specifically the project budget for Reiche is and where that contributes to the context of the BFOF total project costs, and then we'll look at the lead score, our current status of the lead scoring system for the Reiche School project, and then give you next steps, which are the schedule of bidding the project and also what we have for upcoming meetings. And so with that, Lisa is going to lead us in a review. It's a little small on the screen, but if I don't know if you all got it in your board packet. This is the first floor. So if we could have took the building and kind of sliced it about 3 feet above the floor, then we'd be looking at this. And Lisa, would you like to give a description of what we're looking at here, please?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Great to see everyone. We're excited to be able to present on Reiche this evening. What you're seeing on the screen, a couple colors. The green colors are additions to the Reiche School. They're small additions. The one on the left-hand side is a stair tower to be able to enter and exit over on that side of the building from both levels. Also, the green area on the right-hand side, or top center of the page, is an addition for the administration. It's a conference room as well as the admin area. And what that does, it allows great sight lines to the now revised main entrance to the building. and it also provides an identity to the front of the building where you enter. What you're seeing, kind of, if you were to divide the image in half, you're seeing a lot of blue and a lot of darker gray. And that's mostly the school side of the building, and it's receiving a very, what we call, heavy renovation and light renovation. The big scope item at this school is providing walls and doors for the educational spaces, at the same time maintaining the connectedness of the Reiche community within the school, so dispersing different breakout spaces and collaboration spaces and creating that open center to the library. But essentially, we are creating unique program spaces to support the different programs within Reiche, and also provide 21st century learning spaces and new finishes in the open space, which is the library area. You'll also see is in the middle of the page, there is a little light gray area and a blue square. That's where we have the OT-PT space and some modifications to some finishes in the what we call brickwork area. So if we go up to the second floor, you'll see a very similar color palette. You can see now that two-story stair tower that we talked about before in green to the left-hand side of the page. Again, if you draw a line down the center of the graphic, and to the right is really the classroom or the school side of the building, where we started to use walls to carve out the different spaces for the different programs, while still maintaining a great openness to the center of the building, and having some great breakout spaces and 21st century learning spaces, while keeping all the classrooms around the perimeter of the building to make sure we get as much natural light into the educational spaces as possible. On the left-hand side, there is a renovation as the health program within the school that serves the community, some community needs, is being relocated to that side of the building. So there's renovations that need to take place in order to execute that. So that's the big picture scope and overview of the floor plans at Reiche. Mark's going to lead us through a detailed overview and try to summarize the detailed overview of the different upgrades that we are doing at the school.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. So this is one of the important lists, and so I'll go through these items and just to give you a sense of what it is that we're improving and the overall systems of the building. Again, as we recall from our conversations with Longfellow, this has been, this all originated with the BFOF effort that developed the scope and led up to the bond. We had to make some prioritized decisions when we understood exactly how much we could afford with the funds. But all this is still addressing a lot of the goals that were established back at the beginning of this this journey and the development of the scope for the bond itself. So we're improving a public address system, and so that has a number of functions, but it allows us to provide communication, and we can actually zone the communication throughout the building. That's good for security reasons as well as for notification of people at various locations in the building itself. We're upgrading the data wiring throughout the building, and so those standards upgrade every couple of years, and so there are many years since a lot of the wiring has been run in this building, and so there'll be new cabling provided. Particularly also the fact that we're actually going to be installing walls, and so we'll have walls to actually run all the cabling in. There'll be a centralized clock system throughout the building. Right now, there's a limited sprinkler system within the building around some of the larger open spaces, and that was code compliant and when the building was built. As we look at the building now, we're going to expand that sprinkler system, so it's going to be building wide. We're also going to upgrade the fire alarm system, so those are all really important safety features of the building itself. Some of the additional security features that we're going to be doing, which This is in line also with what was done at Lyseth, and as we discussed also at Longfellow, there'll be security cameras provided throughout, and those will work in concert with the rest of the security features and procedures that take place in the school. And that also includes access control. So there'll be electronic access control on the perimeter doors, and then we'll also have a system on the interior doors for being able to access or control access to certain spaces within the building. One of the important things is to be able to close off the classroom components and leave community side spaces open after school hours. They will also improve accessibility throughout the building. That's one of the important things. And so that includes signage, includes upgrades to toilet rooms. This is a new concept for a lot of the spaces at Reiche doors. And so there's, with walls, we actually will be installing doors in a lot of the classroom and educational spaces. So, and those doors are important not only from an acoustic separation point of view, but they also are part of the layering of security. And so these doors will have security hardware on them. They'll also have security glass on them. And so that's an important part of the safety features. All the classrooms will have instruction walls with the ability to have the short throw projectors integrated to the computers and technology systems, but they'll also have spaces for pinup and for writing on the walls themselves. They'll have outlets. The wonderful aspect of having walls in classrooms is that you'll actually have access to outlets without having to run a cord from the wall on the exterior. These things seem simple and taken for granted in most places, but in an open concept school, these things are going to be welcome additions. Let me keep going here. I think on the next. Those are sort of all overall throughout the building improvements that we're going to see in a lot of areas. A lot of the smaller spaces, what we're doing, and this is an example of small group rooms, but it's similar in many other interior spaces. So we're going to remove the existing carpet that's there, and we're going to provide new flooring. And so instead of carpet, we're going to be putting down a rubber floor tile. That's what we've gone with at Lyseth. And the reason we like that is because it's a softer material so that it's quieter on traffic, foot traffic. It's also really easy to maintain, and it's good for indoor air quality as well. So there's a whole bunch of really good reasons why we're going with that material. In the ceilings, we're going to, most of the school doesn't have a ceiling right now. It has that lovely waffle slab, that concrete slab that sells. And so we're going to be, and so we're going to take down the light fixtures that are there. We're going to be running a lot of utilities underneath that slab, that waffle slab, and then we're going to be installing a new acoustic ceiling, which is going to be great for sound, and then all new lighting as well. So all of that is tough to fit within a pretty compact floor-to-floor height of the building, but we're going to get it all in there, and then on the interior, we're creating new walls out of metal studs with drywall and insulation. So there'll be acoustic insulation in those walls, and we'll have paint on those, and then we'll, as we said, we'll have doors, new doors, security doors in many of the classrooms as well. So those are some of the interior features that we're providing. The corridors, again, we'll have lots of the same things that we just talked about. The nice thing is with these spaces that Lisa described that we're laying out with the walled classrooms and some of the other learning spaces, we'll actually be providing ventilation through ductwork into those spaces. So we'll now have the distribution of air throughout the building will be much enhanced over its current configuration. Again, I'm not going to go through every one of these. There are many, and certainly if there are questions, we can answer them. But one of the important areas that we're doing is a security vestibule, and that's been common at all of the schools that we're making improvements to. The idea that we have an administrative presence that is admitting people after they've been vetted before entering the building. So people come to the main entrance, they come into a security vestibule. There's a transaction window that is a high degree of security. It's actually got a ballistic rating to it. And the wall itself has a ballistic rating. But there's a window in it that allows someone to vet that person entering, and if there's a reason for them to enter the building, then there'll be a button they can press, and that'll unlock the door for them to enter. There's also a communication portal at that window, so if it's something that just can be taken care of by conversation, that can happen too, and as well as a transaction tray, so that if there's something that needs to be dropped off and it doesn't require somebody having to come all the way in the building, that can happen too. We also are making sure that we're careful to do making the building fully accessible. So we've got a ramp at the main entrance where we're coming in at the primary classroom elevation or floor level, and then there's a ramp down to what is the brickwork level right now. And in similar fashion to the rest of the spaces, we've got new flooring and rubber flooring. We have walk-off mat at the entrance, and then certainly paint throughout the building, new lighting, new mechanical systems, and new power and data. Again, I'll just pick sort of the highlights here. These are all heavy renovation. Most of that scope is, again, the same that we've done in the past. One of the things that we are improving with the renovation, this is an area that currently occupies what was I don't want to call it a closet, but it's the room that the sprinkler water entrance comes into the building at Reiche. That has been converted into the nurses area. And so we're going to actually create an intentional nurse suite in the building itself. We'll have a whole new fit up of rooms, and it'll have a toilet with a shower in it. It'll actually have area for cots with a privacy curtain, washer and dryer, and a refrigerator as well in that. So really bringing that up to where it should be, and particularly given sort of what we've had asked of these of nurses and these spaces during the time of the COVID pandemic. The classrooms, again, we've kind of talked about that. There's all new finishes. The idea that we'll have acoustically appropriate spaces to learn in, which just again, to reiterate from our previous presentations, the number one thing that we heard from the faculty when we were there is to create an environment where there was the ability to conduct the class without having to always constantly monitor speech and be aware of how loud that the conversation is that might be impacting the groups all around you. So just having that individualized acoustic space will, we think, have tremendous both educational benefit, but also just the lack of stress that some of the faculty feel right now, just always constantly having to monitor and making sure that their voices are held in check. The upstairs classrooms, again, are very similar to the first floor ones. The unit ventilators, where there are some new unit ventilators that, because of the new layout, we're reusing the existing unit ventilators, and those units that are on the perimeter of the building that bring in the outside air with fans, and they condition it with heating coils and provide that conditioned air within the classroom space. So there are some that we can reuse, and then there are some that we're purchasing because we need to incorporate them where we've created new space or rooms. Again, there'll be new instructional technology, new data in these spaces, and new lighting and ceilings, acoustic ceilings, new flooring. Essentially, in essence, the interior of the building is really becoming a brand new school, and the exterior shell is going to look very much the same, but once you come into the building, when it's done, it'll feel like you're walking into a brand new school itself. The art and music rooms, as Lisa had shown on the plan, we're moving the music over from what we call the community side. It was on that left-hand side of the building, and putting it over the right-hand side so that students no longer have to circulate either across the roof or find their way over to that side. So it'll really keep all of the school activities on the right-hand side of the building. And then these spaces are going to be located such that they have adequate natural light in them. They're large enough to accommodate all the different spaces. We'll actually have the kiln have its own dedicated space with proper ventilation, which it lacks right now. And then the music room will have appropriate acoustic treatment in it as well. So really excited about these reconfigurations and having those available, those special spaces available right within the classroom areas of the school. And so we talked a little bit about the community health center. We'll be moving over to the other side, and we're wrapping up the final requirements. We actually have a meeting with them tomorrow to just confirm that we've got everything in place for them as well. And then the additions, there's, as Lisa mentioned, there's very little in the way of the addition. So the entrance will have a bump out that contains a conference room and also contains the administrative location to observe people coming and going into that security vestibule from the outside on the Brackett Street side. And so the exterior itself will be constructed as we would nowadays with a veneer, and there'll be a portion of it that brick, or we also, if folks have seen the Lightseth edition, we used a concrete, light, ultra high performance concrete, it's called, panel that's essentially a rain screen attached to the wall. And then we'll put a heavy amount of insulation, and we'll put a barrier that wraps it, called an AV barrier, or an air and vapor barrier, and that prevents moisture and air from going through the wall. And then we'll also have additional insulation on the interior of it. So those are all high quality exterior walls that comply with our LEED efforts to create an energy efficient envelope of those additions. And those within that addition itself will have the low emissivity glazing for the windows, and the doors will be an insulated, thermally broken entrance system for the entrance doors. Again, the interior additions of some of those areas that we just talked about are similar to the other parts of the school, in that they'll have flooring similar to what we've talked about, either the rubber flooring or the walk-off mats, or the in some limited areas of admin we use carpeting, and then it'll be a gypsum wallboard with just a painting on it and acoustic ceiling. So the interiors will be very similar to a standard interior treatment that we're doing throughout the building itself. The other small addition that Lisa identified was a stair that gets you up to that community health area, and that is going to go, if you imagine entering Reiche right now, and the entrance, you go down the slight grade and you go through the doors. On the right hand side of that entrance area is where that stair tower is going to go, and that's really for a ability to have the public come into that area without actually having to enter the school building. And it also functions for emergency egress from that upper level. And so as we have shared, I think in the past, and you folks probably have seen this was an earlier rendering that we had done. A couple notable points here. We had a workshop, and we'll bring this up a little bit further in the presentation, but we had a workshop last Thursday. I'm trying to remember what day it is here, but it was last week, with the Building Level Advisory Committee of the Reiche School. And so we looked more carefully at this entrance element, and there's been a lot of great conversation about what this is and its appropriateness. The most recent iteration of that has changed a bit, and it was determined that we would carry that as an alternate. So that trellis element that you see in front of you is going to be priced as an alternate, and we'll have a little more to talk about in a minute here. But what you can see beyond that is the entrance addition, and so we're creating those 3 doors, entrance doors, right to the right of the flagpole. That's the new entrance, and so that's at the level of the primary floor of all the classrooms. And so instead of having to go in and wind up a ramp, you'll actually enter primarily at the level of the majority of the spaces. And just to the left of those 3 classroom doors, you can see the windows from the administrative office area with full view of people coming and going. And then the conference room is just to the left of that. So it's the left portion of that new addition. And the addition is a single story. So we allow all the glass of the windows up above for the relocated art and music rooms are right up above this entrance right here. One of the great conversations we had also with that we've had with the Reiche Greening Committee is looking at how much of the efforts that have been done and also some of the mature trees could we save in our design for the entrance of the building. And so there's been a lot of good effort there in collaboration to use as much that's already been done and not have to do a lot to replace some of the great effort that's being made or has been made with the Greening Committee and the community at large. And Lisa, I think, wants to speak a little bit to the fun. This is our fun image for the interior. This is what the new Reiche school is going to look like on the interior.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark, for allowing me the privilege to talk about it. So this is the existing library right now, and what it will look like when we are done. And so there will be more books than what are shown here. So that is just a placeholder, but we want you to look at the creation of the tiered seating behind the big blue circle. So that's a nice gathering space for large groups, or as we like to call it in 21st century best practices, a watering hole somewhere where, I'm sorry, not a watering hole, but campfire, where somebody can learn from a storyteller or a presenter. And then you start to see these color boxes starting to jut out towards us or kind of retract to the background. And those are the 21st century collaboration spaces. And we've positioned those around groupings of classrooms. And we can start to use color and graphics or numbers to really indicate a wayfinding device for the students so they understand where their home is within this building. Because it is going to feel a lot different with walls. And so it's going to be a completely different landscape within Reiche. And so making sure that we can add some fun colors and graphics to really provide identity within the new Reiche for the students. And then making sure that we have flexible furnishing through the library and throughout the school to be able to really set up different learning environments for the different learners within Reiche. And then you'll notice something that's missing. And that would be the waffle slab. You don't see it anywhere in this image. It's covered up by the acoustical ceiling tiles. So no longer will be looking at the underside of the concrete. Instead, we'll have a nice bright material that will also help with absorbing some of the sound within the spaces. We were careful too to make sure we had great visual connection from any of these enclosed spaces. So even though we are putting up walls and doors, we don't want to lose the culture of Reiche. That was really, really clear in all of the teacher interviews that yes, we want acoustical separation, but not at the expense of losing our connected community. So making sure they still have that visual connection and also these spaces where larger groups and smaller groups can gather.
So as we as alluded to earlier in the conversation, the idea of the front canopy was discussed at our most recent BLAC meeting. And we looked at it in a couple different ways. There wasn't a unanimity that it was really the right approach to to add it to the front of the building. And so one of the considerations was, can we look at its relative cost in relation to the different alternate scope items? And the alternate scope items are items that we've broken out that would be desired to have, but when we looked at trying to make sure that we fit the scope within the budget that we have, these items move to the sort of, if we can afford them, we'd like to add them back in. We also went through a prioritization ranking exercise with the BLAC to understand where the desired implementation, if we had funds, would be. And so the values that you see here are the approximate values of those alternates. And with the potential cost of the canopy at the front of $150,000, it was decided that there may be some other things that money would be better used to fund through the project, but that we still wanted it as an alternate. And so right now, that was the recommendation to move forward from the BLAC. And so the other really great conversation we had is in the process of collaborating with the Greening Committee. There was a real strong desire to save a tree that's right at the front of the building. Well, one of the aspects that the tree is providing is a natural canopy in this very same way that the trellis is providing one. And this is a way that there's sort of a win-win. Let's save the tree and use it as a softening natural element at the front of the building, brings scale to it, but also in some ways acts in the very same capacity that the artificial canopy of the trellis would provide. So there was a sort of very strong comfort level moving forward. At the end of the meeting, we thought it was a great way to understand what its cost is, and we can then evaluate whether there's desire to move forward with it, should there be funds available at the time that we receive prices.
Mark, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, absolutely. No, please.
On your slides, I don't know if perhaps it's just my screen and there's something going on, but there's a gray bar on the right-hand side. I see it
as well. I think something's overlapping your screen, Mark.
Yeah.
How's that?
Excellent. Thank
Much
you.
better.
Sorry about that. That's actually the picture of all of you, so I can see to make sure that I don't.
I'm just keeping this one up for a moment. I haven't seen this this recent summary, and it's very helpful.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if I was blocking any other slides, but if I was, I can certainly go back to.
I think this was the only substantive one.
Okay. So as we also reviewed with you last week, the budget for the Longfellow project at that time contained the same line items that we have before you tonight on the Reiche budget. One of the big things that we developed in looking at reconciling the project budgets, and I think we may have talked about this at our last conversation as well, but the initial budget amount that we came up with of $15.75 million for the construction for Reiche was driven by an estimate of the work that needed to be done to create all the interior classroom spaces and the small additions that we had. And that was the result of what was determined to be the scheme, or the scenario 1A, the classroom scenario. And we established these various budgets for the different schools based on that scope. We then built a project budget as a percentage at the time of the construction costs. And what we do is we assume that 75% of the total project cost for each school is what we call the hard cost, or the construction cost. And so that was this $15.75 million. The total project cost, that includes all the other fees associated with the project, is those soft costs of what are shown on the screen here is the B and C areas. Those account for 25% of the total project cost. So that 75 and 25 is a pretty standard breakdown that we see in developing project costs for construction projects. So at the time, we had just placeholders for what these total cost might be. And most recently, what we've done is we've gone through and reconciled what these actual costs are. And so those costs include 7% of the construction costs we hold for movable equipment, and that's furniture, that's for technology, instructional technology. So it's sort of the pieces in the building that aren't bought by the contract itself. So they're not sort of the walls and the floors and all those things. They're the movable pieces that we bring into the building. And so for the Reiche project, that's 1.1 million that they'll be available to purchase for furniture and for the technology. We also carry monies for any hazardous materials that need to be removed from the building. We also have the other important is line item number 7 on this one, which is a project contingency. And just like we explained it for the Longfellow project, that is 10% of the construction cost. And so that in the case of Reiche is 1.5 million. Half of that we hold off for the bid of the project. So that would, in this case, be about $750,000. And then half of it we hold for changes that come up during the construction of the project. And then we get into the fees and services, and that's the fees to hire Harriman to do the design and engineering, and then to also administer the project through the construction phase. And that'll be all of the next 2.5+ years to see these projects through to their completion. And then there are permits and construction testing, and then there's the representatives that you approved tonight for CHA. Their fees fall within this, and then there's also the clerk of the works, which is another position we talked about, I think, before, which are the eyes and ears to observe construction daily throughout the construction period. So all those add up. In the case of Reiche, we estimated that it would be about $21 million project cost. Well, when we finally did the reconciliation of that, it was about 20.3 million. So there was a savings about $700,000 right there, and that was good because as we initially set up all of the different projects for the scenario 1A, we were actually about $600,000 short. So the bottom line at this point is that when we add the Longfellow, the Przemska, and the Reiche project budgets to the LICEF one that is nearly 100% complete in terms of our expenditures on that budget. So all of those prices that were budgeted at one point were almost. We have another probably 6 months or so in the LICEF project, and then that number will be finalized. But all of that right now totals just over 64 million, 64,084,000. And the total bond that was approved by the voters is 64,260,000. So right now we're at about $176,000 in reserve. So we call that being on budget. Lisa's going to give us just a quick update on where we are with. I'll pause for a minute but then Lisa's going to give us an update on where we are with the lead rating.
Mark, are you going to cover the duration of the project?
We don't, I think, have some in there for that, Superintendent Botana. So we can share a little bit of information on that. That's actually good. So when we get to when we're going to go out to bid, we'll explain a little bit about the duration of this project. Thank you.
Okay, so lead. For those that may not know what LEAD is, I think many folks do, but it's a third-party rating system that essentially we track points based on their metrics, and there's different categories that we're tracking against, and really it provides a comprehensive approach towards sustainability.
Excuse me, can we zoom a little bit because we cannot read?
We can. It's pretty dense text. I don't know.
Oh, really? Okay.
Can you zoom?
Let's see if I can get that a little bit.
Miss Bondo, on your computer at the top, you can see like view options, and you can adjust the ratio of the image.
Okay, thank you.
It is in your packet, and so you can do it there.
I don't think it's the presentation is actually posted.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, excellent.
I'm looking at it.
And thank you, Ms. Chung. That's news to me how you can change the.
So the different categories allow us to really track a comprehensive approach to sustainability. And those categories are making sure we're doing an integrative process through our design process. That is one. Location and transportation is another category. Sustainable sites is another. Water efficiency, energy and atmosphere, materials and resources. Mark, we just lost, there we go. Environmental, indoor environmental quality, innovation, and regional priorities. And so essentially we're tracking different points as to how the scope addresses the criteria for those. On the left hand, there's 4 columns. On the left-hand side is what we call the yes column. On the right-hand side is the no column. And in between is either a weak maybe or a strong maybe. And so in the yes column, right now we're tracking 53 points that we are targeted to achieve through this current scope of the project and the way to which the project is documented. To meet our threshold of LEED Silver, we need a minimum of 50 points. So we are on track to meet LEED Silver. We like to have about 5 credits of cushion, as we call it, not knowing how a LEED reviewer or interpreter may interpret our approach to a credit. So we're always looking for another point or two here or there just to build up that contingency, if you will. And we have different ideas as to how we will approach that. So I think we are targeting, or I know we are targeting to be within the LEED Silver range, and we're very close to getting to that level of comfort of about 55 points. Right now we have definitely 53 in the yes. So things are looking great for LEED compliance. And if anybody has any questions about any of the detail around this, we can pause here for some questions.
Are there any questions? I don't have you all in my view, so if anyone has a question and I don't see your hand, please just jump in. Lisa and Mark, I think we might be set.
So the next steps, upcoming meetings. We have the vote for Reiche on March 16th with all of you. We have our DABC, so our District Advisory Building Committee, meeting on March 18th, followed by the building level advisory committees for each of the schools, starting with Reiche. I believe there's a typo here. I don't know if it's Longfellow and then Presumpscot. Or, yep, I'm seeing heads shaking up and down. No, Presumpscot, then Longfellow. Okay, so it's Reiche, Presumpscot, and Longfellow is the order. So we'll get that fixed. And those are on March 25th. And then our next slide talks about Reiche and when we're going out to bid. And so that's when we have all of our documents ready. We have them ready for contractors. Contractors, they get into their hands and they start estimating the project. Those bids or those numbers from the contractors are due on April 27th. And currently we're working with the planning board to get planning board approval. And then we will obtain the building permit prior to breaking ground. And if the numbers are above our budget, we will do some what we call value engineering. So that is looking at cost savings to bring the project back within budget. And we will negotiate the contract and bring it back to the school board for approval for the apparent low bidder. We will target to award the bids on May 18th and then follow up with our groundbreaking. And that leads us into the schedule. Mark, if you want to talk a little bit about the projected schedule for this project, this might be a great time.
Absolutely. Okay. What we contemplate for the schedule is that with an occupied school, one of the things is to really take advantage of the periods of time when the building is not occupied or when we can have the building available to the contractors. So durations of the summer are really when between the completion of school in June and the start of school in late August or early September. That period of time in the summer is when we can get a lot of work done. So really try to build as much of the schedule around that. And so what we did in developing the schedule for this is that this first summer of 2021 is really when we'll get going in earnest on a lot of the work. And then we'll have the school year from 2021 to 2022. So that duration of time, we're going to be creating swing space by adding portables. We will move a cohort of classrooms, or a number of classrooms will move into the portables, and then we'll separate that area of the building. We'll do the renovations to that area of the building during the school year. So it's a limited amount of activity. It takes place in a very controlled and contained area of the building itself. That takes place during the school year, and then that will take place during 2 school years until the 2021-22, and then there'll be the summer of 2022, which again, there'll opportunity for to get into spaces that they can't get into when the school is being used. And then we'll get into the 2022-23 school year, and then that will again use the portables to create space, swing space, to be able to renovate portions of the building. And then the last portion of the project takes place in the last summer, which is the summer of, let me see if I've got it right here, right? We've got 2020, the school year of 2021-22, and then school year of 2022-23. So it's that 30-month construction duration, and then the idea is that we get all that work done in anticipation of the start of the school year and in the fall. And so this is a very similar pattern that we used for the Lyseth school in thinking about how we sequenced it. We didn't have as much swing space at the Lyseth as we're creating with the portables here, but it's a very similar strategy of having the contract work in very contained areas during the school year. It's not always the most fun to live through, but we learn sort of some strategies that work well. Lenore's already been talking to Terry about how Longfellow can learn from the lessons that Lyseth did, and we understand the lead teachers here will also be part of that conversation and learn. So it's a challenge always in doing it in an occupied building, but that will ensure that it's done safely and to get through the project as quickly as we can. And with that, that is our presentation at the workshop of this first reading tonight.
Thank you so much, Mark and Lisa. It honestly is truly awesome to take it all in after, so many months and years of planning to get to this point and see it all come together. You kind of, for me, I forget different pieces of it and to look at the project in its entirety. And I heard you say the interior of the building is going to look like a brand new school, and that is just music to my ears. So thank you so much for all your work. And I don't have any questions. Do any board members have questions? And again, if I'm not seeing you because of the presentation, just please just go ahead and pipe up. All right. I don't think there are questions. Thank you for such a comprehensive presentation. And
I have a quick question, just a clarification quickly on the, I just want to get a clarification. In the end, are we going to have more space on the parking space around the school, or is going to just stay the same? So we're just going to have our school, but everything surrounding is the same, right? Yeah, okay.
Still parking challenges, but we have a
exactly.
School, brand new interior, walls and doors.
I see. All right, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Really landlocked. Yeah.
but we didn't lose our parking lot, so we're doing okay. And Mark and Lisa, that wasn't you. There was never an issue with you. It was with the city.
Yeah, we haven't, and we've done a lot of things with new schools, but we haven't been able to figure out how to create more land yet.
I do kind of think you're a magician, so I'm not sure you should admit that. Mr. Irish.
Over the parking lot.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment from someone who went to Reiche back in the very early 80s. This is phenomenal. It's exciting to see the change that's long overdue, and thank you for everybody who's been working on it. So it's pretty awesome to see the footprint. So thank you.
And Ms. Bondo, your hand is still up, but you're all set? Okay, thank you so much. All right, Mr. Superintendent, do you want to say anything to wrap things up? All right. Mark, Lisa, Emily, thank you so very much. We look forward to seeing you at our next meeting.
Thank you.
We're deeply appreciative of all your work. And Steve, I see you still there as well. And Doug, thank you both so much as well. And that concludes our workshop and our meeting tonight. So good night, everyone. Hope you get a good night's sleep and appreciate everyone's work tonight.